Hey friends, it's Lyric at the North Carolina Museum of Art with my buddy, with Susan Brubaker Knapp. And we are just having a lovely time wandering through and looking at the art. So we're going to show you what we're looking at as soon as I can figure out how to turn us around again. We've been looking at this room and comparing how I feel like each of the pieces are kind of paired. Look at how we've got the same kind of blue, the same soft rounded forms, the same kind of value contrast that shades so softly from the center to the edge, and we've got kind of the same thing
on the gray shapes in that
painting. They're not flat colors.
Yeah.
So they speak lovely. What do you think of this piece?
I love the way the light moves through it and those raw edges. It looks really sharp and really smooth at the same time. So I like the texture going on in there.
Wouldn't it be amazing to see this in full sun?
I want to touch it.
I know, right? Why do you want to touch it?
Because of those, it calls to you to touch and find out if those edges are sharp and the edges are smooth and the surface is smooth.
Do you feel that same way about the painting? Do you want to touch it?
No, but you're not really supposed to touch a painting.
Right. There's something about a work of art that has form that's out in space instead of flat against the wall, that feels like you're sharing space with it instead of just it's over there and you're over here looking at it.
And you know you wouldn't damage, but you would damage the painting if you touched it.
Right. And that glass, probably the oils in our skin would smudge it or something. It's got a really soft finish to it.
Right. So let's see, the oil painting was done in 1934. When was the glass piece done? 92 to 93. Okay. So much more modern sculpture than painting.
The forms, the shapes, this one has a lot of rounded forms and shapes along with the straight lines going together, playing off of each other. They're sharp, smooth on the inside and rough on the outside. This doesn't have any roughness to it, though.
The other thing I'm seeing, too, is that white line, the strong white vertical line on the oil painting. And if you look at this piece from this angle, you've got
a strong
of about the same size
space,
and proportions.
Right? Yeah. Isn't it fun how they play together?
Yes, I think the curators in this museum must have had a lot of fun finding pieces that played well together.
Let's look at the ones around the back of this gallery, because we were talking about the same thing. These two pieces would seem like they're very different, but in reality, they have a lot in common. They're both based on overlapping organic forms. Both of them have a very quiet color palette. I mean, there's a lot of color here, and with a few pops here and there.
The pops
they both have a lot of yellow.
The pops of color in the piece to the left, Golden Dawn, are much more subtle, but it's one of the things that I really like about this piece.
This one's really interesting. It is oil and graphite on linen, but look, I don't know if you could see it in the video. It looks like layers and layers of paint built up and then scratched into.
And then the graphite is on top. And I think I like this one so much because the graphite looks very much like thread to me. It's like they built a base level and then they scribbled all over it. And so when I look at this as a fiber artist, I'm thinking, ooh, I wonder if I could do something like that and play, instead of with the graphite lines, play with thread lines.
It would be fun to play with. And then this one as a textile artist would be more of a
fusible applique.
Fusible, or hand applique, or pieced, applique-piecing is what Carol would call it. And it's more flat colors, but it's still kind of grayed and muted mostly, and those organic shapes.
I like how they're fuzzy along the edges. It's not real crisp. They obviously did it on purpose that way too, to add a little softness. And
this canvas is having a hard time, isn't it?
Yeah, you can see some, unless that's done on purpose.
I don't think so, because there's also cracks and things
You
going
almost
on.
don't see the canvas at all. They must have gessoed the heck out of it to get it to be that flat, you think? Because it almost looks like paper.
Susan and I were just talking about this spot in the middle, and you notice how it's so much more intense than everything else. Why do you think that is?
Well, I mean, obviously there's a value contrast there with the yellow and the darker blues and purples.
Mm-hmm.
I love how they did that little darkening with brown on top of the yellow to really make it
Dimensional.
Yeah, and it's almost like a shadow, so that this part, the blue and purple part, seems to come forward.
It does. Notice also that it's two complementary color schemes. We've got purple and yellow, and then red, orange, and blue, green next to each other.
And that's interesting. That's something I don't think about that much. I tend to think more about value than about the role that complementary colors play in doing that job of creating dimension.
Right.
Yeah.
And also just the visual dynamics, how everything else in here is kind of grayed or toned. But as you come towards that spot in the center, there's more saturation and pure color.
The other thing I think is that that's the only thing, that circle in the middle is the only thing that's a whole recognizable geometric shape. Everything else is kind of fragmented.
And lines also point you right to it as well. The edges of those shapes bring
And it's almost
you
like a spiral
around.
too, coming in. But yeah, it's not right in the center of the painting, but you know that that's the focal point there.
Definitely a focal point, and all those things make it so.